Hi, hello, namaskar everyone. Welcome to Dhvaani, which means sound in Hindi. We bring to you resonating sounds created by the actions of women innovators, leaders, experts, and entrepreneurs who are making a difference in their and others' lives. We share their stories to inspire and empower other women. Dhvani is an initiative of Innoberry which is offering a platform for the women to voice their thoughts, struggles, challenges, achievements, highs and lows, and the journey that they have undertaken. I am Pooja Bhatia, a tech transfer, patent licensing, and intellectual property professional, and now your host for this show. Let's inspire and get inspired.
Hello, everyone. Today's guest is a special one. She has a blend of experience in IP and tech transfer. She has worked with the CSIR Labs, National Chemical Laboratory, also with one of the centers supporting the incubation and IP Venture Center, and also with the new established branch of CSR, which was particularly dealing with technology transfer, but later it closed down. But we'll hear more about her journey from her, and she is an entrepreneur now. So, without taking much time, I'll let you know who she is. She is Sneha, and she is an entrepreneur now. And we'll know why she became an entrepreneur because that's the first question we always ask. Hi, Sneha, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi Pooja, thank you so much for that kind introduction. And of course, thank you for this invite to be here today. I'm very glad to be present here.
The pleasure is ours because you're going to inspire us. So, we are looking forward to your side of the story because there are always some parts which are not known to anyone. So, Sneha, let's start with your journey. How did you become an entrepreneur?
So, Pooja, just to give you a little bit of a background. So, the reason I started out on my own, so entrepreneur is a bigger term, but I work independently as a consultant, and PatentSKy is the consultancy which I have founded. And the reason I started out on my own was because I needed that sort of independence, sort of a freedom. And having worked in a government lab, having worked in a sort of private sector, and of course in a incubation center, I had the opportunity of actually wearing multiple hats, understanding various roles, and gaining and learning from that. But then somewhere there was also, this sort of further calling, I would call it, where I actually wanted to see how do I do if I start out on my own, and what would be the challenges I would face. So it was just this thing, that I really wanted to try out something different on my own. And when you're an entrepreneur, when you're starting out fresh, those are the challenges which actually sort of groom you, define you into what you become later in your life. Okay, so I started out quite early. So people are actually sometimes surprised that even I was at that point of time, even I was not sure if you would have a paying client, because starting out is easy, but then you need to keep it up. You have to have sort of a pipeline. You have to build that sort of expertise. You have to also deliver on those, set expectations of your client. So for now, it has been an interesting journey. It's been almost 7 years I've been working independently as the founder of PatentSKy. And looking back, I would happily do all of it again.
I could relate to it because when that, you were not sure if you would have the first paying client. You would get people who would like to get advice from you for free, but it's very difficult to maintain that momentum. So, you have founded Patent Sky. So, what does Patent Sky signify?
Yeah, so for me, the brand or the name of it was quite important. So for some people, it may not be that important, but sort of it was a uniquely combined term because patent, because I'm in the IP servicing side of things. But then sky is something which has another meaning as well. So there's a landmark case, a judgment called Diamond versus Chakrabarti, and in which, so it was a landmark judgment in sort of the patent as well as biotech space, wherein the Supreme Court judge in the US for the first time said that anything under the sun which has some sort of a human touch to it, or something which is made by a man, considerable human intervention, would be patentable. So sort of that was something which was at the back of my mind. I had that when devising this term, but PatentSKy also has my initials into it, SK. So in a way that was also something. So when I started out, the idea was that it should be sort of a umbrella of services which I would be providing under these boutique IP consultancy sort of structure, and specifically for 2 and 3 tier cities, because coming from Pune, having worked across CSIR, I understand that all the big cities, they are already saturated with a lot of sort of expertise available for entrepreneurs, for startups, for innovators. Whereas as you go further in the interior, like in the second and third tier cities across India, we didn't really have that sort of expertise. So for me, it was very important to reach those sort of niche places where people could benefit. Because in Pune, I was just among one of the many IP lawyers, right? But when you're actually helping out people who are coming from villages or coming from towns, from smaller places, then you're making a difference. So from the start, that was something which I truly kept in mind. And I have worked happily. I could very proudly, I can say that I have been able to help startups which come from very small towns, villages, places, and I've been able to help them secure their IPRs.
Well, I really like the concept behind PatentSKy because it signifies two things for me. You have put in a lot of thought to it, and being an IP professional, you have applied your IP knowledge to it to, to ensure that the brand is something which is in line with what you want to signify through your company. So it's a good combination. So when I looked at PatentSKy, Sneha, the first thing that came to my mind was related to anything under the sky is something that is connected with patents would be something that you would be offering as services. And you clarified that, it's related to anything under the sun. So kind of connected. Yeah. You talked about challenges also that, challenges groom us as an entrepreneur and help us in making a better entrepreneur. So are there any particular challenges, Sneha, that you faced during this 7 years of your journey as a founder?
Yeah, Pooja, I think when you're starting out on your own, one thing which becomes very important is understanding what are your strengths, and also understanding what is it that you can deliver upon and cannot deliver upon. Okay, so because of course you want to always go big, do great things in life, but you have to start small. So as an entrepreneur, that is something, the journey is very important, and taking the right steps at the right time is also important, understanding what you can deliver upon. So that was always at the back of my mind. Also, I've been very thankful to all my mentors, all my colleagues, all the networks which I had been able to create. And of course, further also, as more and more people have come across, I've always had a very good sort of support, I would say, from all of them, and they have helped me a lot in this journey. So that ways, the challenges in terms of doing everything on your own, it does have some sort of it takes a toll on you sometimes. It is difficult, but at the same time it is rewarding in terms that you own all your successes, right? And all your failures are also your own responsibility, they are on your head. So but it's a learning. So it's been good so far.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest disadvantage of being a solopreneur, right? Because you don't get to share your failures with anyone or any challenges that you have. But still, it's a happy space because you could decide on lot many things easily
Yeah.
rather than with two heads
Yes.
fighting over something. If you were not in the IP space, Sneha, what else would you like to do?
So for me, actually,
It's
I've been
unimaginable, right? Out
no,
not
no.
with
So it
anything
has
without.
been like they say, if work doesn't feel like work, it's a good place you're in. So
Yeah.
for me, IP has been that. Having said that, if I was to do something else, maybe because travel is a passion, so maybe I would have been a travel curator, maybe a social media influencer, and just doing some offbeat travels. But more than that, I feel I could also be a content creator, because that is something which I love. So for the past few years, I've all because see, when you're dealing with servicing techno legal sort of in this space, sometimes it does get a little bit sort of I wouldn't say it is strict. It is a serious sort of a business, right?
Yeah.
And you do need that sort of outlet for your creativity as well. and there's not much scope for that in the law. Okay, so that was the reason why I actually wanted also to start a podcast. For a few months at least, I was thinking about it, but couldn't really take the leap and make a podcast. But then I'm happy that finally Speak IP, I was able to get it out 3 months back, and I now have a few episodes of it online. You also, I hope you have also heard it. I would love to know your feedback on it. So that is how. So maybe I would have been in the content creation space if not IP.
But
Yeah.
related to IP, right? Because the podcast is Speak IP.
It does speak about IP, but I wanted to keep it sort of on a lighter note. The reason was that this was my small effort to reach out to further audience, not just who's an entrepreneur, who's a creator in the strictest sense, but someone like a housewife, someone like a person who's not in this, maybe accountant, who's not in this sort of space, but then still would be interested in knowing what intellectual property is. And for India to become a developed country from a developing nation, we need more and more people to be aware of intellectual property, of its protection, and of the various ownership rights. Because unless we start respecting it, it does not happen. As a country, as a whole, we need to understand our intellectual property, right? So that is something, that was the reason why I started out Speak IP. And reason is just to keep it very basic so that anyone can understand. And if you see a few of my episodes, it's not something which I go into very in depth technical discussion with IP lawyers and into the law nitty-gritties of it. Because then that becomes a separate clientele, right, for your podcast, a separate group of listeners. I wanted to keep it a sort of more open.
So
Yeah.
that is one thing you should follow. Sneha has a wonderful podcast, and I've heard one of her episodes where she's talking about packaging. So I really liked it, and she's explained it very simply. So even if you are not an IP professional, it is something that you could relate and connect to. Sneha, since you have been working since last 7 years, did pandemic play any role in shaping PatentSKy? Because, I would tell you why I'm asking this question. When I was heading the Innovation Technology Transfer Office, I did have the challenge when pandemic kicked in. So as an entrepreneur, I believe, there would be more challenges for you. So did it play any role in shaping PatentSKy as it is right now?
So it did, Pooja. To be honest, pandemic was started out in 2020, and I started PatentSKy in the later parts of 2017. So it was about 2.5 years, and I was actually thinking of setting up a bigger office, maybe, so sort of expanding on the
Mm,
already available services. But at the same time, I was also thinking of having a team, a larger team in one place, and then sort of fanning it out from there. But the thing was, once pandemic hit, I realized that at that point, because of the sort of uncertainties that all of us were facing, and then it was also compulsory work from home for everyone. So for me to actually get that sort of skill set or those sort of resources and then work closely with them, because mentoring is a big part of, when you're setting up a team, mentoring is very important.
true.
Because for me, that level of client satisfaction or that level of services to be delivered is important. So then that of course those plans had to be put on a back burner for a few years. But having said that, it has been sort of a difficult time, but it also helped all of us to realize. And one good thing that came out of it, Pooja, I'm sure you will agree, that work from home became a very professional thing.
Yes.
Before it was considered, work from home was considered very unprofessional before pandemic. But once everyone started sitting at home and working from their homes, you realize that it's the person who's professional or unprofessional. It doesn't have to do anything with the setting, right? So those are small things which pandemic played an important role, but at the same time it made all of us very self-sufficient, because we were managing things, we were managing multiple things, all of us together, and we were doing a good job at work as well as with your personal life. Okay, so for me, I'm sure just like me, everyone has had some learnings from the pandemic. And for PatentSKy, definitely it has been so. Ideally, I don't know, if pandemic had not happened, maybe team would have been in place, a bigger team by now. But hopefully in the near future again, I would be reaching that point.
What you said is correct, Sneha, because earlier I remember that, if anybody would talk about working from home, they would presume, oh, this person is not serious. But now, because everybody was put in the same place, everybody had to work from home. Now they have realized there are challenges working from home. And in
Yeah.
fact, the person working from home is actually putting in more hours in comparison to
Yes.
the person working from the office, because there are no meetings, there are no travel time, so all that is, taking away the energy, and working from home opened up a lot of opportunities for the women also,
Right.
who otherwise were not into the direct workforce. But as you said, everything plays a role in shaping up us and our organizations. So what past experiences have been useful to you in your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. So I started out as a trainee in Venture Center, and I was just fresh out of graduation. And all my further studies I have continued while working. So my patent agent registration happened after I started, picked up an internship. My post graduation, masters, everything has been while I had been consistently working. So after Venture Center, that was sort of a eye opener for me, because when you get exposed early on incubator, there are so many new things which you sort of get exposed to. Like, so not just the IP management part of it, but also what are startups, what is a startup ecosystem, what is funding, what is IP management, what is technology management, technology licensing, commercialization, and the journey of various entrepreneurs who are incubated in that incubator. So I was able to witness all that early on. Then moving on, I was a scientist fellow at NCL, CSIR. So again, we were looking at a large portfolio of patents. And so I was also working on a database for this. We had about 3,000, 4,000 active patents at that time. And so one of the things which I experienced, which has been useful to me, is handling so much of patent volume in terms of a big portfolio early on. You don't get phased now when you look at smaller portfolios. Okay. So
Mhm.
when having handled that early on, it sort of prepped me for the journey to come, because then numbers don't overwhelm you. Okay. And
True.
yeah, so timelines, everything. So, there is a sort of a process which could be put in place, and then there's no reason for it to overwhelm you at any point. And apart from that, of course, I had great mentors, I had great colleagues, and because of whom I have been able to sort of be where I am today. So all those relationships, the working relationships, as well as sort of the friendships which you have developed over the years, that is something which handhold you as you take your journey onwards. Because people keep changing, their needs from a workplace keep changing, but at the same time, it is the old colleagues, it is the old mentors, it is the old sort of people you have networked with that play an important role in your journey, even if you are no longer in that workplace. So I've been very sort of, I would say, God has been kind in that ways, that I've always had a set of good role models as well as a good support system for me available. So these experiences, and of course, working at CSIR-Tech Private Limited. So we were all independently looking at multiple labs, tech transfer for them. So for me, I started out with the IP part of things, that is the creation of IP, understanding how IP can be mined and created in a place like NCL. Then the actual protection part of it. And because I was already a patent agent, so I understood the drafting aspects of it, understood the various ways, the prosecution stages. And then at CSAT, it was the next part of the journey, that, okay, you have created a IP. Now, what do you do with it? So either commercialize it, look for industry partners, or how do you just make the best of what has been created? Okay, monetize it. So in a way, that was sort of a learning, because I understood the entire pipeline, the entire life cycle of innovation management, and from work experience, not just from from a theoretical perspective. So in a way, that has helped me. And then starting out on your own, of course, we all go through some sort of self doubt, we all go through this feeling of whether you're good enough. But then somewhere you have to overcome that and just say that, okay, let me give it a try. If it works, it works. And when you, particularly when you try, it does work out. in most cases. So yeah, that is what I have learned so far, and of course, it's a long way ahead to go. So I hope there are many more learnings for me in this journey going ahead as well.
Well, Sneha, for us and for the listeners, I believe there are a lot of learnings from your journey. Two specifically. One is that, try till you succeed, but do try. Without even trying, you won't know if you could succeed. So do try. And the other thing is that gain as much experience as you can at various stages of your life, be it, while you are working or you are interning, or even if you are, an entrepreneur. Gain as much experience as you can. Failures don't define you. You are what you are. Thanks, Neha. It was really interesting to know your journey and the learnings. And I hope to have you again after a few years discussing about, what more you have done with PatentSKy and how you have helped the clients. Thank you so much for joining me, Neha.
Thank you so much, Pooja. It was such a great pleasure talking to you. And normally I shy away from interview kind of things, but you have made me feel comfortable from the start. So it was easier for me also to speak about it. And for Dhvani also, I am very impressed with the way you have taken your journey forward. So it has been a great pleasure for me to learn from you as well, from your journey, and I look forward to our association. So it's been great being here. Thank you so much.